In-game teleportation is a crucial mechanic that proves the quality of life for us players. But the story of Genshin gives emphasis to the concept of travel as a main source of conflict. For example, Inazuma closing its borders was a massive threat to its citizens because it prevented international travel. But in a world where innate teleport is real, the real question is, what are its limitations and mechanics? So today, welcome to How Do Teleporters Work, where I will be theorizing potential mechanics of the teleporters based on their information that we know. Disclaimer, none of this is indicative of the final product, and this is all just a theory. Nevertheless, let's begin. First, we need to tackle what we do know about the teleporters based on the current information in the game. According to the description of the waypoints, they're odd devices that are scattered across Tevat, seemingly forming a certain order. People on the continent see them as ancient gimmicks. They were accustomed to their existence despite not knowing their purpose. To the foreign traveler, however, their function becomes quite apparent. We know that teleporters are a connected network of podiums that allow for creatures to phase through one end and leave through any part of the network. We do have to put the limitation that in-game teleportation is not the same as lore teleportation. We as players just pull up the map and teleport to wherever we want. But that might not be completely lore accurate. I don't think that the traveler has innate teleportation like Xiao for the sole reason it's a web network capacity. To enter the network in the first place, it's possible that you have to enter through an already existing waypoint physically, then leave through another end, which means that physical travel is still required. At-will teleportation, especially for the traveler, would be detrimental story-wise for the sole reason that the traveler has had several near-death experiences that could have been avoided by mere teleportation. To add to this, portable waypoints become extremely important because of their innate limitation. It is capable of connecting with the ley lines, at least to the extent necessary to bring about teleportation. Although it offers an incredible convenience to vision bearers, some scholars worry that since the actual principles behind teleport waypoints are not yet fully understood, using a built imitation device for teleportation may have serious unknown side effects. I'll return to the consideration about vision bearers later, but it's fascinating that humans have created a device that lets you hijack leyline flows. The problem, though, is that the lore recognizes that this is merely a prototype, and it could have severe consequences if misused. But then, we also have the teapot teleporters that cement the need for a centralized stable source of energy. This kind of waypoint bathes in the realm's adeptile energy, and will not lose function over time. However, Tubby says that putting too many of these waypoints in might throw adeptile energy in the realm into disarray, which can cause her massive insomnia. And if she gets insomnia, the following things could happen. Buildings could end up in the wrong places, trees might go flying into the sky, mountains and stones might twist and turn. Given that teleport waypoints in Tevat are connected to the ley lines, this most likely follows the same pattern. But now we get into the important theorizing questions and the other crucial elements of the teleport waypoints. First is, who can use the teleporters? Catherine claims to be able to use teleporters, but is an unreliable source of information due to her lack of proof. The problem is that theories about Catherine's humanity are spread across the lore that putting her together with other people might be difficult. But let's assume that she is human. Does that mean that everyone, if they have sufficient enough knowledge about the waypoints, can use it? I mean, it does make sense. Think about it this way. While the lore does say that people do not know about their purpose, there are most likely those smart enough to study their mysterious origins, much like how the scholars of Sumeru study visions, or how Albedo uses knowledge of different worlds. What's most likely happening is that knowledge about the waypoints and their inner machinations are what's considered rare, which is why not a lot of people use it in the first place. But it's possible that the requirements to use them aren't that high to begin with. If these waypoints are already connected to each other and are feeding on an existing source of energy, aka ley lines, then simply operating the waypoint itself is what's stopping a regular citizen from truly using it. Which leads me to believe that this is why we see so much physical travel in the game. It's not that people can't use the waypoints, it's that they don't know how to. It's a knowledge gap that the traveler isn't subjected to. Sure, they can make replicas, but maybe there's just an innate requirement or way of operating the real waypoints that humans haven't been able to properly do yet. Most importantly, given that the traveler has been to many worlds, the traveler is aware that teleportation might be an innate possibility in Tevat, which is why they deduced its purpose and use it accordingly. But let's ask the question of teleporter usability. Do vision wielders use the totem teleporters? The problem with this question, despite not having a concrete answer, is that all signs point to they don't. Either it's because they can't, they don't know how to, or it's just impractical to do if you have a lot of luggage or people that are not vision wielders accompanying you. Regardless, there are so many instances of physical travel in the game that would support the idea most, if not all vision wielders don't use teleporters. Beidou uses a boat, Kazuo had to leave Inazuma through the Crux fleet and has not returned to his homeland for a significant amount of time. Characters like Kokomi, Kazuo, and Goro had to travel to Inazuma in the Itadori festival through boats and not teleporters, even though they are native to Inazuma. The Mondstadt characters in 2.3 walked down the mountain despite all being vision wielders. The Chasm Archon quest would lose all of its stakes if the characters could innately teleport out. Mona had to go to Mondstadt herself, which is why we met her in Liyue. Kuki studied in Liyue but was unable to get her graduation certificate due to the Sakoku decree, meaning that she would have knowledge of the waypoints in Liyue, but she was unable to teleport out of Inazuma. You can argue that Mona and Kazuha get a pass because if a waypoint needs discovery to exit and enter from, much like how we do it as a player, then there would be no way for them to get to Mondstadt or Liyue without having been there before. But characters like Kuki, Goro, and Kokomi have already been to places that they want to get to, so why don't they just teleport? In a world of teleportation, you'd think a lot more people would abuse it more often. Is this a knowledge limitation, or simply because they can't? Which brings me to my next question. What are the requirements to using the teleport waypoints? If there are any. Vision wielders are capable of using the portable waypoints according to the description, but we never got confirmation if they're part of those people that don't know what a real teleport waypoint does. If they're able to use replica waypoints but don't use real waypoints, the question is, why not? If I had to guess the reason they're able to use the portable waypoints in the first place, it's because of their affinity to the elements. Ley lines are an unknown source of energy connected to the elements of Tevat, so maybe a smaller boost like a vision bolsters that innate requirement of teleportation. Visions can act as a form of battery that powers an entity's external attacks, so maybe vision wielders are a source of energy for the portable waypoint. However, those mechanics might not duplicate when faced with the real waypoint. Maybe real waypoints require a stronger source of elemental energy, or maybe they just have different mechanics or activation methods than portable waypoints. Another weird thing about waypoints is that their locations are difficult to rationalize. Have they always been there, or did people put them there? This one is impossible to predict for the sole reason of evidence. Moving waypoints might not be all too far-fetched, but the rationale of some teleporters in this world are very confusing. For example, that random teleporter in Mondstadt's tower or the Dragon Spine teleporters. It's a very difficult thing to say, but the rationale of a sentient and conscious human being putting a teleporter on a tower that has no means of going down is beyond mortal comprehension. But going back to comprehension, who made the waypoints in the first place? Gods bestowing the power of teleportation in the 7 nations is very perplexing because we have areas in the Chasm and Enkanomiya that have teleport waypoints in the first place. But given that the past relationship of the gods and humanity is benign and positive, I wouldn't doubt that gods would give humanity a means of moving easily around places. So we will assume 2 hypotheses. First is that the gods created them. This would coincide well with a theory that Reddit user Objective Emotional proposed about constellations and teleporters. They patterned the constellations of Liyue characters to the waypoints and were surprisingly connected. This supports the idea that patterns mentioned in the description of the waypoints is that all of these waypoints were placed by a mysterious ancient entity to mirror constellations. Why? I can't say for certain either, except for other theories about Genshin's world and structure. But solving a theory with another theory is too impractical and dangerous. Second, though, is what if humanity created them? Waypoints could be created by ancient civilizations for easier travel across the world given that large cities and important landmarks have teleporters inside of them. We know that Khaenri'ah is a very advanced civilization that was lost to time, and there were older ones that would have predated that. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to have these ancient civilizations, like the one in the Chasm, be the source of the teleporters. But the knowledge of teleport waypoints as per the descriptions were lost to time. People started forgetting what they were for, or lacked the necessary resources to use them in the first place. Waypoints as a man-made creation would undermine the role of divinity in the placement of the waypoints, so that leaves the question of pattern currently unanswered. But yes, that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down below. But in the end, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me.